Hey guys, welcome to another episode here. Today, I want to talk to you about a realization that, well, it took me a while to admit to myself. And honestly, it actually even took me a few years to see it clearly. So I want to talk to you about it because it was a realization that completely changed how I show up in my business and in my personal life. And honestly, it changed how I think about visibility altogether and how I came up with this platform that I now teach. So, because probably just like how you think, for a long time I thought I had a marketing problem. And because I thought that, I did what most people do. I started studying marketing. I read books, I watched trainings, I took courses, and I tried to learn the strategies that everyone said worked. But every time I sat down to actually do those things, to share something about my work, something else happened, right? I would write something that I really believed, and then I would reread it and start softening the language. You know what I'm talking about. A sentence that originally felt really clear would suddenly seem too strong. So I would tone it down. Then I'd tone it down again until eventually the message pretty much didn't say anything. And I remember sitting there thinking, why is this so hard for me? Why is this so hard? And for a long time, just like probably you did, I thought, it's because I'm lacking confidence. I need to just screw my head on straight and be bolder, right? And I need to push myself harder. But over time, I began to notice something. Many of the women I was talking with, and this was like in my law days, right? I'd be talking to these business women, and they were capable and they were experienced women, and they had years of knowledge behind them. But they were doing the exact same thing. They weren't struggling with ideas. Not at all. They knew they weren't struggling with ideas. They weren't struggling with their expertise. They were struggling with being seen. And the more I paid attention, the more something became really clear. Many of us were raised with very clear expectations of how we were supposed to behave, what women did, especially good women. We worked hard, we were helpful, we supported others, but we didn't draw attention to ourselves. We didn't boast about our abilities. We didn't go around bragging about things or talk about our achievements. So when you then start a business that requires visibility, that requires you to talk about what you're good at, that requires you to self-promote yourself, those old lessons can just show up in ways you don't even notice. You start softening your messages because you don't want to sound too assertive. We know what people say about assertive women, and you start hesitating before you say something because you start wondering if maybe you should say less rather than more. And eventually you start thinking, problem must be me. But here's the realization that changed things for me. Visibility isn't primarily a marketing problem. It's about finding the courage to be seen. It's about overcoming the decades of conditioning that taught you to stay small. And that's an inside job. Once I understood that, everything about visibility started to look different. Everything. Because then I understood. So instead of trying to force myself into someone else's marketing model, I began focusing on something much simpler. Learning how to show up as I already am. Not louder, not flashier, just me. And that was huge. I was just being clearer and more honest and more willing to let people actually see me. And that shift changes everything. It really does. So if you've ever felt like visibility is harder for you than it seems to be for everyone else, well, one, that's probably not true. And two, it doesn't mean you're broken. It may simply mean you've been trying to follow a model that was never designed for you. And when you start approaching visibility that way, from the inside out, from who you are, things begin to feel very different. Because authentic visibility doesn't start with strategy, it starts with how you see yourself. Okay, well, this is what I wanted to share. And so, if conversations like this resonate with you, I share ideas like this regularly with my email community. And you can join us using the link below or in the comments. I'd love to see you there. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.